I, for one, know what it feels like to feel numb inside. No matter what you achieve, no matter what you do, that feeling stuck with me for years. And I'd achieve something and do something next, and it would go for a short while. But it never fully left. If you feel like that right now, maybe you've done for a long time, I'm glad this video found you, because we're going to unpack this right now. And I'm going to tell you my story and how I completely overcome this feeling of emptiness that weighed me down for many years and left me feeling numb. And take a look at your life, because right now sometimes it can look like your life's great from the outside looking in, and you can be like, oh, I feel fine. Is that what we're going for though? Are we following the pursuit of happiness? Are we just going for fine? I'm telling you, you can have much more than that. You can have peace, love, joy in a moment every day. So let's unpack it. Because for years, I made this mistake. I was seeking to fill this void. I was always searching for the truth, asking big questions. I'm like that. It's just part of who I am. We'll get onto that in a little bit. And no matter what I achieved, whether it was uni, Mac Nutrition, when I was doing my personal training, starting my business, changing my physique, it made me feel good for a short while. But no matter what I seemed to do in life or achieve, that there was this lingering feeling of emptiness, like a void. Like something was missing. And I could never put my finger on it. I remember when I finished MNU and I started my business, I was doing personal training, it was like, yeah, I was feeling good, but there was still an emptiness. And sometimes I also saw that emptiness in other people when I was coaching them. And I have done that for years now. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Let's unpack this for a second. That emptiness within us, it's more of an indication, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But notice what we're doing. And what most of us do, because we're humans, this is what we do. We need to do stuff, right? And I'm not saying doing stuff and achieving things is a bad thing. We need to keep moving forward. And that's much better than staying still. But what we're trying to do really, we're trying to fix this numbness and this feeling of emptiness. And we're asking the wrong question. For example, my question was always what do I need to do to fix how I feel? And everything shifted for me at 28. Now I want to talk about my own story. In brief, I'm not going to go off on too many tangents. But at 28, everything changed, because for the first time in my life, instead of being selfish and focused on myself and what I can get out of life, I honestly come to faith, and it changed my life. I'm not going to go into that too much detail in this video, because I know what it's like. I haven't been a Christian for 28 years. I looked into loads of different things to try and fix this emptiness. I'd done psychedelics, started a business. I'd tried to achieve so many things, changed my physique, studied psychology, Taoism, Buddhism, you named it. I really did search for it. And some of those things gave me a piece of the pie, but not the whole thing. I want the whole thing. And what shifted for me was a question of, I started asking the question, because I got to the point I was like, there's definitely a creator. I'd looked into the science. I was like, there's a creator. Okay, so which one? And that's how my journey started with everything, in terms of my mindset being shifted. Because for the first time, I wasn't focused on what I need to do. I was asking a different question, and this changed absolutely everything. I went from saying to myself, what do I need to do, to asking, well, who is God and who am I? And I come onto this truth, and I'll talk about this and cover it in a different video, because you can really go into depth with this stuff. After working with hundreds of clients and knowing myself and doing many different things in my life and studying different people, I honestly believe most people can't answer the question who they are. Don't mean your name, don't mean your job, I mean true identity. I also think in order to know yourself, you have to know the creator. And I understand there's different layers to this, because I've also believed this in my life, that at one point I thought we're all God, or it's universal consciousness and all this, and I understand there's layers here. And then when you actually think, okay, there's a creator, and you get to that belief, then it opens up more questions. And I'm trying to keep this, I'm trying to get to the point without going off on different tangents here. But notice the shift. If we're constantly trying to fill an emptiness, a void, by asking, what do I need to do next? How much money do I need to make? Because when I was 18, I thought it was about all making money to get financial freedom. I've seen the ways of the world, the structures, the traps. I thought, my biggest dream, obviously I do want the financial freedom. I'm not saying I don't still want certain desires. They're in me, I'm not going to lie. But I always saw the way the world is and the systems, and I knew the ways I could get trapped. So I've spent, I'm 30 now, and I've spent so much time focusing on myself. Probably was a bit selfish at first, but it's allowed me to understand what really matters to me. And that did change everything. So the questions that come up in my own head, I started I was searching elsewhere, I was searching everywhere other than myself. I even got into Qigong, and I was trying to focus on inner peace and different things, and it certainly did help. But the question that shifted when I got to the point of, okay, then who is God? Who am I? And just to talk about this emptiness feeling, no matter what you achieve in life, and you've achieved things so far, did they fulfill you? And yeah, you may have felt good. But I honestly believe until we can answer the question of who actually am I? What's the truth? Because it's such a shame that we're conditioned by the world. Because I know my biggest lie, I believe, for most of my life, I believe lies about God, and I believe lies about myself. And one of the biggest lies I believe was I'm not good enough. And you can only someone told you that once when you're 4 or 5. It's funny how that stays lodged in your mind. You tell yourself, and your brain, your wiring of your brain constantly says, well, come on, you can't do this, you can't do that, because it's just embedded. We're fighting a losing battle. So everything did shift off the basis of that question. If you have any questions about my journey, my story, my testimony, there's actually a link where you can get a 7-day free reset, but you can book in a call with me. So if you ever want to chat, one of the things I love doing, I just love talking about life. And God told me recently, this is quite funny, but he said, it's funny when you can look back in hindsight in your life. He said, you were never meant to be a nutritionist, you were never meant to be a personal trainer, you were meant to bring people life. And me being my selfish self, you know, when I first come to this realisation, this faith at 28, all I tried to do was disprove Jesus and disprove God. That's all I tried to do. Because I was thinking, well, how am I going to make money? How am I going to make a living? Because that's how we're wired. And there's nothing wrong to think like that sometimes, but it shows really how selfish I was being. I was just focused on myself. And the transformation in my life, I'm just other focused. I focus on God before everything else, but then that allows me to also serve and focus on other people. It really has changed my life. And I get there's loads of different layers and different ways to look at it. So I'm going to pull it back to the main focus of this. In order to fix that emptiness and that void, you do have to get clear on who you are. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'm not quite where you're at, James. I don't actually believe in God, or I don't actually know what that looks like. That's fine. My advice would be this: continue to seek the truth. Don't just get stuck in the knowledge of good and evil. There's something in there that sometimes we can get stuck in our own knowledge of thinking we're always right, and that can be quite dangerous. Just keep seeking the truth. But another way is to just realise and look at it like this. If you've got these things, these false beliefs, they will be like lies. It will be something like you could feel a sense of abandonment, you're not good enough. Anything like that does not come from God. That's all I'll say. And what I'd like you to do then is just ask a question. Obviously, it depends where you are in your own journey. You might want to ask God, or you can simply just ask yourself. Well, you can look at your life and think, what are the recurring patterns? Where am I right now? Now, if there's a common pattern of you feeling like, oh man, I feel like a failure, I'm not good enough, you can exchange that false belief. First, speak the truth over it and then change it with something that you want. The way I personally do it, and I've been taught from Jamie Winship, it's all about identity. In order to know God and know yourself, you'll have a true identity and why you were created. If you ever want to chat about that, you know where I am. But that is it, and there's a few different ways of going about it. You can sort of create, it's all about becoming who you believe. But the truth is always there. Like, you'll have ways in yourself that you really want to serve the world. You might not have figured it out yet, but you will have a way within you that really, but you might be held back by thinking, how am I going to make money? Or what if I fail? Or what if I look stupid? Or whatever. But I know as a person, you'll have that instinct to serve the world in some way. And that is partly linked to your true identity. Unfortunately, though, it's a lot easier to believe the lies of the world sometimes. It's how we're conditioned. Look at the way the world is. It's all about separation. God's about connection. That comes into worldview lens, and do another video on that. To get to the point, I'm going to leave you with this question. Who are you? Don't think about it as your job, your occupation, that's what you do. Who are you? How would you like people to remember you? You know, at the deepest level, what kind of person are you becoming each day? And if you look back through your life and if there's someone close to you that you can trust, you ask them to give you a truthful answer. How do they think you are? And whatever that answer is, you can change that. And this then comes down to, most people make the mistake of trying to change like a bad behaviour. Let's say, you know, I used to drink and do drugs like when I was younger, I'm not going to lie. But you don't change the fruit by trying to fix it through willpower alone. You have to change at the root, which is, who actually am I? Who do you believe you are? That is most important. So I just want you to spend some time with that question. And I'm just talking from complete honesty in where I am in life. I have complete peace over the things I used to be afraid of. And sometimes fear does crop up, but I can face it head on. And I work through that with God myself. And I've tried to do so many different things in my life. And I've tried to, when I create videos like this, sometimes I've tried to hide God, but I simply just can't. I'd be lying. And I don't want to lie to you and be like, oh yeah, like I've done all this myself, I've overcome this emptiness, like I'm fine. Like, no, like I didn't do it by myself. I'd be lying. But I think as well, wherever you're at, my simple thing of saying, like, the one thing I will sort of leave you with is just continue to seek the truth and just spend some time thinking, who actually am I? Because when you get clear on who you are, your life will change. Yeah. And like I say, if you have any questions, I've got a 7-day free reset, and it also links to a video call, so we can have a chat about anything you want. But yeah, that is how my life was truly transformed. I got clear on who I was, I got clear on who God is, and that can show the connection I have, the relationship I've built, and it allowed me to get so clear on who I was that the false beliefs that I'd believed for 28 years faded away. And that's exactly what I want. I want you to not just transform physically or mentally, I want you to know that you have this gift of life, and it's the life itself that fills you each and every day. And a shift that I've had is, you feel that emptiness because you're not connected. You're not allowing life to flow to you. And that's what God. Just to touch on Jesus before I finish. People think Jesus is like, he came just to overcome sin, and like that is really important. If you just look into some of the Gospels and see what Jesus says, he constantly says, I came so you could have life, living water. And it links back to the Garden of Eden. I won't go into, there's so much to unpack. But my point is, God wants us to have life. That's what he wants. But in order to do that and to know our true selves, you have to ask the question, who is God and who am I? And if you ever want to chat, you know what to do and you know where to find me. I'll see you in the next one.